Smasho here, and welcome to the Daily Space Weather, bringing you the most detailed imagery of the closest star, and thanks for stargazing with us, as well as the most comprehensive imagery you'll find anywhere of the realm of space weather. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Congratulations on realizing the channel and the Smash News Network, least busted name of news, exists. This is the last 24 hours. In composite wavelengths, that's ionized iron and helium. We've got major filaments. The likelihood of major coronal mass ejections is incredibly high. Let's start out with this area down here. There's a huge prominence down there, a huge filament. There looks like there is some filamentary instability happening in the northern portion of the sun. We'll show you that next. And there's a new sunspot just rose over here. So guess what? We've now reached the most active portion of sunspot cycle 25 that we've seen to date. So this is the most activity we've seen since May, and it's just about to surpass that. So the sunspot number is going to go up today, and the radio flux likely to exceed 180 solar flux units, a new high. Also, the Kanye West filament right here looks like it may be becoming unstable. Rene Gable filament still hanging out up here. Oh, by the way, that's the Zach Tovin filament, and this is the Bill Nye filament down here. Let's take a look at sunspots briefly. We did see some growth in this group here, and some growth in this group as well. Again, a new sunspot just rose back here in the southeast. Here's your colorized magnetogram. That is yesterday plus today. Also, a major earthquake we've got to cover. There was a 7.0 magnitude. First volcanoes, Sakurajima erupting, flight level 070. It's a 7,000-foot ash plume. Similarly sized ash plume over Subanose-jima. 15,000-foot ash plume over Semaru, flight level 150. Merapi, height not observed. It is erupting. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 200. It's a 20,000-foot ash plume over central Mexico. Fuego, flight level 160 as it explodes in Guatemala. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, flight level 220. Sangay exploding, flight level 230. Revenador exploding, flight level 150. And continuous ash emissions from Sabancaya remind us that if we're going on a volcanic vacation, to leave our vault poles at home. Seismic activity recently turned to very high because basically without warning, we saw a 7 magnitude quake at Vanuatu. There is the location of that. Quite a large quake there at 27.7 estimated kilometers depth there. That came in at 12:32 this morning. And if you're wondering if it produced any tsunamis, it is unlikely that it did. There is no tsunami warning, advisory, watch, etc. in effect. Continuing on, let's check the rest of the map here. Tonga had a 5.3 in the past 24 hours. Philippines had a 5.0. So lots of all the seismic activity, all the major seismic activity is all in the same spot, the Western Pacific. Do I think that fact has forecasting value? Not really. Again, there's that 7.0. There was no warning for that. There was no foreshock, although occasionally we do have a foreshock for a major quake. And let's get back to space. So here is the last 24 hours. It's where the action is at. So that's the last 24 hours. SDO 171 angstroms, and we've got some spectacular composites for you today. So check it out. Here we've done a three-way. Yes, a three-way. That is 335, 1,700 plus 171 angstroms, creating lots of depth there. Here's a two-way. That's the the SDO continuum, as well as 193 angstroms, showing the extended corona. And this new sunspot region that's rising over here, it looks like it's quite active. We can see lots of plasma instability around there. That's exciting stuff. And if that frightens you, perhaps tune out and unsubscribe from the channel. It's not scary, and neither is space. The sun's not going to kill you. People might kill you. The sun won't kill you. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux, now up to 179 solar flux units, only 1 point away from the previous high back here in May. It got to 180. Now it's at 179. And guess what? With that new sunspot region rising, it's likely to exceed 180. So it's off to the races. Sunspot numbers also going to significantly increase today, as we certainly have more than 110 sunspots. I suspect we'll be over 150 within the next 36 hours for sunspot number. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard not forecasting any geomagnetic storms or unrest periods in the coming 3 days. And no arguments there. Let's take a look at some more data here. The KP index currently at 1.33. It is a geomagnetically calm situation. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. Again, things pretty calm in terms of magnetism. Here is Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. We do show it daily on the channel. Some equatorial magnetic pulses, interestingly, happening in there. Next, real-time solar wind. And it looks like we had a tiny, barely noticeable CME impact. Right in here. See that little spike in the plasma temperature, barely noticeable there. And no other significant a tiny little shift in the solar wind speed and a tiny shift in the solar wind density. Perhaps that was a CME that I forecasted from a few days ago, but in any case, that is very minor, barely noticeable, also as forecasted. Anyway, current conditions are about 5 protons per cubic centimeter. Make it 4.5 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density, quite diffuse. Solar wind speed here, 413 kilometers per second. That's just nominal solar wind speed. And do yourself a favor and visit the links below the video. You can save some cash on your Hemp Lucid purchase by entering the promo code SMASHOMASH10 or simply by shopping through our link. So if you do try out some of the products, all kinds of different solutions offered there by Hemp Lucid. So treat yourself to some CBDs or other similar products like the various different mushroom products for focus, stress, or sleep. Maybe read the testimonials from people like Eduardo and Nancy. If you want to support the channel, become a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. We recently put up a post just yesterday, actually, only for Gold and Silver Smash Team members. So if you are a Gold or Silver Smash Team member, make sure you log in. Don't be spaced out. Get the facts that we only share with our paying subscribers because, well, we're paid just this side of nothing to put the content on YouTube. You can find a ton of links there on the Smash Team page as well at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. There's also a gold level, there's a gold annual paid up subscription, a silver level, as well as a bronze level, which doesn't cost you anything. If you put in your email address, you can even receive email alerts for things like tsunamis and space weather events. Smashomash.com/SmashTeam. We just launched it in October of 2021. So if you want to support the channel, consider that or become a patron. Yeah, the Patreon. It still exists. So hit us up over there on Patreon. Patreon.com/Smashomash. If you'd prefer that, if it's more convenient for you, support us that way. The credit crawl is coming back. We're a little bit late on that. More on that later. Let's get into some magnetic data here. Here are our GOES magnetometers. A little bit of a divergence happened there in between the GOES 16 and GOES 18's magnetometer readings near midnight time for the GOES 18. So that's what these, by the way, for you new viewers, these M's and N's, those stand for noontime or midnight local time for the satellites, giving you some insight in terms of what portion of the planet they are currently located when they're making their measurements. Next, looking at the heliospheric current sheet, and I'm telling you, there's a North Pole current sheet rushing this way, whether it shows up in this data or not, and now it is showing up, actually. North Pole current sheet is imminent. It could be here as early as tomorrow. Don't be surprised at all to see that. Most of the south solar polar field is actually pointed somewhat in the Earth's direction now, but again, the North Pole current sheet is headed this way. North Pole-oriented plasma. It's coming. Next, our line of sight field plot. You can see the south solar polar field here starting to rotate out to the west. North solar polar field starting to rotate in from the east, which brings us to coronal holes. So we do have some North Pole-oriented coronal holes here rotating in. I would also note how there's a bunch of South Pole magnetism fixated at the south solar polar region. An indication we've got a long way to go to solar maximum, so I don't care what any hack frauds who know nothing about physics are telling you about we've already reached solar maximum on YouTube, because we're telling you that we're years out from solar maximum. These are facts. We do not see the poles we do not see the fields fixated in the opposite poles at all. In fact, the poles are mostly fixated at their respective normal spots yet. We got a long way to go to solar maximum. You'll see a lot of activity between now and then. Here's SDO 211 angstroms. And again, we do have North Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in here. There's a bit of a magnetic tug-of-war happening in the east side of the sun. So over here, there are coronal holes that aren't super visible yet. These are South Pole. These are South Pole. And this down here, this is also South Pole. So just so you are aware of that, these are North Pole. They're not quite visible yet. They will get more defined in the next couple of days. Next, we'll move to sunspots. And sunspot 3184 will get named today. It's already visible. We'll show you high-res imagery of that and its fields toward the end of the video between the space weather and meteorology segments. And let's take a closer look at sunspots. So here's our SDO magnetogram zoomed in. Here's our SDO continuum. This sunspot is quite magnetically complex. It is beta gamma delta class. Here we've added 304 angstroms, and you can see that rising region there. It's looking quite active indeed. Quite active indeed. By the way, the likelihood of X-class flares, very, very high. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections, 99.999%. Expect to see more CMEs in the coming 24 to 36 hours. Some of them could be directly aimed toward Earth, or not really aimed, but, well, it depends on if you think the sun's conscious or not. Let us know in the comments if you think the sun is, quote, aiming, and, quote, CMEs. So there's a great zoomed out view there. That's ionized helium plus SDO continuum. Next, going to energetic particles. Still no spikes in the proton flux there. No relativistic particles. We are way overdue for a proton event considering how many flares we've seen. I mean, we've recently seen an X-class flare that was not even accompanied by a coronal mass ejection. We did see one M-class intensification here over the past 24. It was a double spike. This one here was actually C9.35, so really, it's two M-class flares in the past 24 hours, and let's take a look at SDO 131 angstroms. And it looks like those M-class flares came from a region not yet named. So this new region over here, 3184 it will be called, is the culprit. Or it's the area associated with those solar flares. Remember, folks, correlation does not necessarily mean causation. So similar to, and that brings me to an important little side note. Let me just take a break to say one thing that a lot of people on the internet do not understand. You should never blame a conspiracy for something which can be more easily and logically explained by stupidity and ignorance. Incompetence is the root of most failures, not a conspiracy. Because for a conspiracy, you'd have to have a bunch of people getting together and making coherent decisions and having a coherent plan and behaving like a team. And there's a lot more incompetence on planet Earth than that. Anyway, there's 94 angstroms. And we'll also show just the southeastern limb because that's where the action's at. So get ready for the money shot. Strap yourself in. Here it is. Why isn't it playing? No, that's okay. We'll wait. Hey, Microsloth. Play the animation. Wow. That is... Okay. You saw me press play, right? All right. Anyway, that's the last 24 hours. By the way, these videos are originally streamed to twitch.tv/smashamash. If you're not viewing them live, you won't be able to see them because they get unpublished after they go live. Then they get uploaded to YouTube and BitChute, where you're most likely watching them. That is the money shot. And yes, there have been CMEs, coronal mass ejections. We'll get to them. Are they earthly directed? The answer is no. Here's a star chart for what's going on over Lehigh Valley. The Sun and Mercury very close together at the moment. Also Venus and Saturn trailing the Sun there. So Venus and Saturn are now early evening stars, visible just after sunset. Venus should be very bright. Not too many degrees off the horizon there after sunset, so check that out if you are stargazing in the early evening. So here's a solar system forecast. Here's where stuff is now. There's where heavenly bodies will be in 1 week on January 15th. Next, looking at coronagraphs. Again, there have been some CMEs. This is 105 frames from yesterday. Again, there have indeed been coronal mass ejections, and they are not indeed directed toward the Earth. We'll show you why. Here are today's frames. That's 53 more frames from Soho Lasco C2 and the graphical analysis there by George Mason University's imagery on the left. We'll also take a look at Stereo A here on the left, located at Lagrange 5, and Soho Lasco C3 here, located on the right. That's at Lagrange point 1. Keep in mind these images are not exactly synced. It's 90 frames on both, however. They are slightly different time frames. And yeah, the CMEs that we've recently seen here are not earthly directed. They're largely oriented to the south there. There's just no earthly component to those. It might look like it on these images. And again, Stereo A is located at Lagrange 5. Soho Lasco C3 is at Lagrange 1. Here are some 24-hour videos. And once again, we have this huge prominence over here. This is too big to be sustainable. This prominence will either eject, collapse, or a combination of the two. Most likely portions of that will certainly eject. Will they be earthly directed? Highly unlikely, at least at the moment. We'll keep you posted on that. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Show you a little bit greater detail there of the plasma output. And let's zoom out a little bit farther here. That's a full view. Again, those CMEs not earthly directed. We've got a lot of empty space between the Earth and Sun. Next, filaments. And we've been naming them, so let's go over it. Up here we've got the Renee Gable filament. This is the Kanye West filament, which is now making it into the western limb. This is the Bill Nye filament down here. It is still largely intact. And then you've got the Zach Toven filament, probably the most likely one to cause significant earthly directed coronal mass ejections, although the Kanye West is also certainly looking like it's becoming unstable just in the past few hours, actually. So let's do it again and play name that filament. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you probably can't name that filament. And even if you do follow us on Twitter, you probably can't see our tweets because we are shadow banned. We are deboosted. Thanks, Elon. You've done a fine job restoring free speech. I don't know why so many people seem to delusionally think that you've restored free speech on the internet, but you haven't. It's just as pathetic as it's been, if not worse. So while you've reinstated accounts and while you haven't outright banned people for posting stuff about COVID, you have indeed retained the deboosting features, which is putrid, and you are still misleading investors, which is criminal. Press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Tell your friends and foes about us if you haven't already done so. They probably can't see the content either because guess what? Shadow ban features exist on Meta platforms as well as on Google platforms. And of course, they also exist on Twitter. So good luck finding the content. We're surprised, frankly, that you have. Press like, subscribe, share, etc. We've got multiple playlists that have nothing to do with space weather or meteorology segments. So check those out as well. We do not limit ourselves or our thinking like certain utterly deranged people on the internet. And thanks for leaving comments. One Audio. Here's the last 24 hours in 304 plus 193 angstroms, and let's switch to the last couple of hours. This is the GOES 16 SUVI imagery. So several things going on here. First of all, it looks like there's a CME in progress right now from down here. We've also got some instability happening on the Kanye West filament, and the Renee Gable filament looks like it's becoming unstable as well. So we can expect to see lots of CMEs here. There's a nearly 100% chance of that. So that's the last about 2.5 hours there from GOES 16 SUVI with its great wide field of view. It's great at showing coronal mass ejections. We'll be streaming this today once again on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/smashomash. Download the mobile app. It will actually inform you when we go live, unlike certain big tech organizations' apps that mislead their investors, lie to advertisers, content creators, users, legislators, and more. Next, bonus features. Here are charging hazards, and we ain't got none. It's clear sailing for satellites. There is the electron flux, kind of low here over the past 3 days. And NOAA's expecting it to remain low into tomorrow. That's the NOAA forecast. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. There's the one-year chart to put it in context. Again, we've got low electron flux levels here at the moment. You can follow that yourself if you like at solon.info. Here is our ionosphere map. This is the vibrational frequency in animated glory of one slice of the atmosphere, the F layer of the ionosphere, located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. It's the bridge between Earth and space. And apparently we're the only channel that's been citing the fact that the South Atlantic anomaly needs renaming because it's now the South Pacific anomaly. We've been covering it for weeks, and this is what happens when you immerse yourself in the data, folks. You find out things that, for some reason, many people who consider themselves, quote, experts, and, quote, in the field aren't noticing it because they're either lazy, they're not looking at the right data, or they're just straight up hacks. You be the judge. Here's the anomalygram, and let's put an arrow at where the South Atlantic anomaly is now located. Yeah, it's in the South Pacific at about 30 degrees south latitude. Right in front of where my pointer is, you'll be able to easily see a huge variation there where there's a swing from low to high frequency anomaly. South Atlantic anomaly is no longer over the South American continent. It's over the South Pacific. South Atlantic anomaly officially renamed the South Pacific anomaly. And for those of you who were not aware of this, where were you the past 5 years as we put out the most detailed space weather imagery in the world? Also, the South African anomaly has moved several hundred miles to the north. That is also obvious in the imagery. It's right about here now instead of way down here, again, by the 30th latitude line. So that's interesting, to say the least. Here's the latest image, 1445 universal time ionogram, 1445 universal time anomalygram. That's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. And let's look at the total electron content next, which is quite anomalous. So lots of free electrons there out of place. And what this is depicting, folks, is the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. So from ground level to your GPS satellite, that's a run of about 12,500 miles. Once again, these are the free electrons in between your GPS satellite and your handset. Too many free electrons can cause huge GPS errors, and you are likely to see them, so perhaps use Wi-Fi accuracy if it's relevant to help your navigation if you need it. That's the total electron content forecast. Last but not least, in our space weather section, we'll show you the latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram, because we've got a new sunspot, 3185, I believe it is. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. This sunspot is beta gamma delta class. This sunspot is I suspect it's beta gamma class at the very least. It's a little bit too early to tell, but that is a new sunspot. It is major. It's going to raise the sunspot number, and it's going to raise the radial flux. So we will reach the new high now in solar cycle 25. All those grand solar minimum folks, they could just go lay down, go to bed, change your mind, paint yourself back out of the corner that you've painted yourself in with all this nonsense about the grand solar minimum cult, essentially. I guess it's not really a true cult, because a cult has to have a living leader that helps their cultists believe nonsense, but it's just not a thing. The grand solar minimum, it's not just canceled, it's just ridiculous. And I've been saying Zarkova was wrong for a couple of years now. Next, we've moved to meteorology. This is our meteorology segment, and we're looking at mean surface pressure, because we've got some interesting things happening here at Antarctica. So in the Southern Ocean there, we've got the lowest pressure in the world. It's basically like a hurricane down there. It's 948 hectopascals. That is a very low pressure. That is the lowest pressure in the world. But what's even more interesting is this little high pressure zone. There's this little high pressure ridge here over the Antarctican continent where there's a huge pressure gradient there. So a little significant high pressure zone there. Very high pressure surrounded by low pressure. That is kind of odd. And we like to cite anomalies on the channel. Judge it how you will. This one up here is pretty low also, but not quite as low as that one in the Southern Ocean. So there we've got 960 hectopascals. That is also significant. That's moved to the northeast since yesterday. Some high surf for Scotland, for sure. Anyway, let's skip to our regularly scheduled meteorology segment. And these are the surface winds of the eastern world. These are the jet streams to the east. Highly concentrated jet stream there over the northern Pacific. Highly chaotic jet stream over the southern Pacific. There are the jet streams of the western world. Very chaotic down here in the South Pacific. We've got an upper level anticyclone here. There's a high pressure zone there, rotating clockwise there in quite significant fashion. Just off the coast of Central America is the center of that. Here are the jet streams of the Central world, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And these are the surface winds. Now today, a really bad day for Viking raids. If you're planning on rowing your longboat from Iceland to Scotland, maybe think twice about that. It seems like a very, very bad idea, because the waves up there are 20-footers. I guess you'd be okay. All the legit Vikings can handle it. Next, let's take a look at clouds and fog over the Americas. So that's what's going on. Should we show the visible for once? Let's actually show the visible satellite for once. We'll leave the 3.9 nanometer behind, since we've got a rare opportunity to view the visible satellite instead, as NASA projects a spherically shaped image of our croissant-shaped planet. Anyway, let's show that same thing invisible here instead of 3.9 nanometers. Fantastic imagery there of croissant Earth. Some great definition showing up there of cloud tops as the rising sun creates shadows, which do not show up in the 3.9 nanometer radiation map, but they do show up on the visible, and it's just awesome. Continuing on, our weather.gov map. If your county's lit, click your county. Not that many weather warnings here. Not looking anything like it did on Christmas Eve. Again, if your county's lit, click your county. We scroll down to show the key. Here's a temperature forecast. This is your temperature anomaly based on degrees Celsius and the GFS forecast for the next 72 hours. So much warmer temperatures coming, especially to the central U.S. Here's what's going to happen in terms of snowfall. Heavy snow continues to fall in the northwestern portion of the country, and an additional 3 to 4 feet of snow coming to sections of California. As it continues to snow and snow and snow, I couldn't imagine how much base is on some of those mountains there. Seems like a pretty good year for skiing and snowboarding in the land of fruits and nuts. That's California. Next, pressure and precipitation. Once again, that's a GFS 72-hour forecast. We show 72-hour forecasts on the channel because they tend to be accurate, not 3-week forecasts because they tend to be idiotic, like the channels that post this nonsense. People who don't understand physics should not be doing meteorology videos. Continuing on to our windy.com map. Let's actually zoom in a little bit here. This is the European forecast for snow depth. We'll put the Canadian border right at the top and advance this 3 days. There's where we expect things to be Wednesday at 11 o'clock. California looking to be a little bit snowy, and we're expecting to see some snow here in Pennsylvania as well. Excited about that. I am a lover of the snow. And here is the NASA Goes Lightning Mapper. Heavy lightning here stretching from the Texas Gulf Coast up into Alabama. And let's see if we have any active strikes here. We do have some likely active strikes off the coast of Houston. So if you're in Houston or if you're in Galveston on a skyscraper, perhaps, go take some video of those cloud tops. You may see some sprites up there. Who knows? That's our lightning map in real time. From lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check that out. It could save your bacon. We're about to close this mother out. First, check out the links below the video to find our merch shop. Because reasons. Why can nobody see your posts on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube? Because reasons. Why are facts suppressed? Because reasons. Why are you living in a corporatist plutocracy governed by utterly corrupt and unaccountable officials? Because reasons. Why have so many bad decisions been made and zero accountability for said bad decisions? Because reasons. Thanks to all of our viewers who've picked up merch. Give Smash staff a raise. Why does she need a raise? Because reasons. Why do big tech organizations promote fraud, propaganda, disinformation, and utter nonsense? Because reasons. If you do click the link to the Redbubble shop below the video or on the homepage at smashomash.com, the link to Smasho merch will direct you to our Redbubble page. The products are in order of best selling. Perhaps pick yourself up a Fauci fraudster face of evil bath mat and tread upon the face of evil daily every time you step into the bathroom. Step on that fraudster's face. And congratulations on surviving a global pandemic. So far. You're doing a fine job and you're receiving a fine level of help there. Congratulations. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance as our finest days lie ahead. And congratulations on surviving global democide. So help us out with clicks, even if you're unable and or unwilling to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet and help the channel out, since we're paid just this side of nothing to put the videos on YouTube, smashomash.com. You can also find links to SureMed there. Do your health a favor by becoming a member of the American Better Health Organization, DBA SureMed. Get discounts on dental, vision, labs, MRIs, CT scans, durable medical equipment. Get doctors by phone, counselors by phone, even virtual veterinarians, because your health is associated with your pet's health. So in June, we added that feature. Make me your agent of record. Are you looking for Medicare insurance? Drop me a line. I'm licensed in 28 states as a Medicare insurance agent. Closing out the video with U.S. Doppler radar. Shortwave radiation map. We would switch to the visible, but it's still dark on the left coast. And there is the water vapor map. That is where we will close things out. Lots of moisture there west of the Rockies. Cloudy day over the southeastern U.S. And a clear day over most of Texas. In any case, it's about time to close this mother out. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, we thank you for tuning in. And may that solar wind be at your back. Facts stated in this video suppressed by big tech criminal organizations for your convenience and web experience. Opinions stated in this video not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.